In this sharing, we're going to take an in-depth look into scriptures such as Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 17, and not just how these scriptures pertain to the modern day, but being king. In particular, we're going to review a conversation that was had with this camp's panel here that began with someone who is either extremely incompetent, if not simply confused, or some sort of agent that was looking to have some information being shared, or perhaps very strongly a mix of the two, where ultimately this one who goes by the screen name of Judgment stated that the entire line of David was trash. So ultimately, of course, I immediately engaged with this one here to obviously crush him on his ridiculous statements, which, as you'll see in this conversation, he immediately recants and states that he was speaking about Paul. So then, after encouraging that all look into what was called at a place and time the Ebionites, ultimately Hebrews whom were against the Pauline doctrines, I then let it be known that I am indeed the legitimate line of David, wherein at that point, of course, some on this panel wanted to try to engage that fact. And though I can understand what it could be like to hear erroneous things, as these angels must from time to time, unfortunately, though they clearly ask for respectful dialogue all of the time, they began with laughter, which of course ultimately led to me addressing their behavior as what it was, childish, as I began to refer to them as kids, and their emotions took over thereafter. So we will begin to play the conversation now and walk through it as we go along.
Judgment, just so I don't waste these angels' time too much being up here, because it looks like... Yeah, hold on 1 second. Because it looks like they're looking for opposition when it comes to Paul and Roman twist. And as I made very clear, I don't hold the Paul. I came up here because you said the whole line was trash. This angel here, TorahLogic, stated that there will be a real king. So this is why I came up here. If you are stating, one moment, I'm going to finish. If you are stating that you are against Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 17, then of course we can have a discussion.
Yeah, we can have that discussion. I'm not against Jeremiah 33:17, because Jeremiah 33:17 is speaking about a real king that's going to rule in the land.
Torah, that wasn't at you.
The countries of Benjamin will be reestablished, the flocks, the shepherds, all of that will be reinstated in the land. A real king will be on the scene in the land.
Oh, I very much understand that. That wasn't at you, not to get out of context. That's actually why I wasn't up here. I'm not defending Paul or any Roman twist. In fact, I encourage everybody to look into the Ebionites against Paul. I came up here because Judgment was continuously asking me to come up, and he stated the entire line was trash, which would be going against Jeremiah 33:17, which would be going against Jeremiah 33:17. So if he recants that and he really doesn't, if he was just misspeaking, well, that's fine. Then there's no reason for me to be up here.
I said Paul is trash, and if we agree Paul is trash, then we don't have no conversation.
Then, my man, you need to go through the text a little bit more clearly next time, because that's what I've been stating.
That's where we're going to have the problem. So we can have the discussion.
I think you're confused. As I stated, I don't uphold Paul whatsoever.
I never said you uphold Paul, but I said the book is trash, and you didn't agree with me at that point.
Okay, so hold on. Just to be clear, you're saying the book of Jeremiah is trash?
I said Paul.
What do you mean I didn't agree? Okay, listen, there's obviously a disconnect here. To the rest of you brothers, I think you're very solid. I agree with a lot of what you're stating, and maybe if there is something to speak about in the future, of course we will. Now, I hold that I am the line of David, and I have such proof on my page, should you be interested in the future.
We're going to compare the lines. We're going to do it. Behind the scenes, we're going to do the lines. We're going to see who really David.
Now though, one more time, I understand that these kids may be hearing different things from time to time, but once more, you all just heard there that they began with the laughter, in particular this one here, which we begin to address directly, as you will hear now.
Why would you, why would you, well, no problem, Angel. I'll be here whenever you're ready.
You know.
Wait, hold on.
Go ahead,
You
Torah.
believe you're going to be the king?
I am the king, by the grace of God.
No. You bugging.
You're ruling right now?
Excuse me, there will always be a man from the house of David
I'm not even a king.
to sit on the throne. Torah,
You said you're a king.
Torah, that is
Where
to
you
sit.
at?
That is to sit on the throne. Correct? That is to
Where's
sit on the
okay,
throne.
let's-
If you go, listen,
where
we
are
don't
you king at?
we don't have to play any games. That would be like asking, is David king right before anyone anointed him or anything like that. If you would like to play games such as that, then you're welcome to do so.
No, he wasn't a king before anybody anointed him.
And
Now here you just heard that this TorahLogic character stated that he wasn't a king before anyone anointed him. So that being said, going off of that quote logic, then he should have been king once he was anointed. So since we're going strictly off of that, let's take a look at what happened once King David of my line, by the grace of God, was anointed the first time. Now, the first time out of the 3 times King David was anointed is held in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 13. Now let's begin at the very beginning of this chapter. And it states, Yahweh said to Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him from being king over Yisrael? Continue on, fill your horn with oil, and go. I will send you to Yesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided a king for myself among his sons. This is clearly prior to the anointing, and furthermore, Saul was still technically a king after the initial anointing, and thus, of course, the history that takes place thereafter. So to this TorahLogic character, his entire camp, which I'm sure will be wanting to defend him, to help him, and any other whom questions anything with regards to what I am stating, first address this. Since King David needed to wait to be anointed to be king, why is it that Saul was still technically a king after that anointing? This is why at the beginning of this conversation I stated, I am the king by the grace of God. As you see here in the beginning of the chapter, it is God that provided the king.
Hold on.
go ahead,
You
Torah.
believe you're going to be the king?
I am the king by the grace of God.
And in fact, we see that when it comes to Solomon, he was indeed anointed and appointed prince over Yisrael and Yehuda. So once more we see that there can be a lot more to being king than just being anointed.
If you would like to play games such as that, then you're welcome to do so.
No, he wasn't a king before anybody anointed him.
And remember this, Torah. It says to sit on the throne. So if you're asking me one more time for proof, I told you it's on my page. That's no problem. To sit, yeah, no problem. Put on whatever you kids like.
Oh, so you don't.
I'm not even
you
a
don't
king,
rule.
bro.
Hold on. So you don't rule then. You're
As-
not a king that actually rules. You just claim you're of his lineage. That's it.
As I stated, it reads to sit on the throne. So if you're asking me,
Hey yo.
so if you're
Man,
asking
man,
me,
if you don't go and get ready for work.
at the end of the day, if you kids are ultimately a bunch of little Roman agents that are one of these kids' last holdout, that's fine. But as I said, there is proof on my page for whoever's actually interested.
It's not like you said, I'm going to be king. You said, I am the king.
Now, once more, of course, indeed I did say that. So let's delve a little deeper into Jeremiah 33 and now move on to verse 18 to further prove a point. After verse 17, it continues to read, "The priests, the Levites, won't lack a man before me to offer burnt offerings, to burn meal offerings, and to do sacrifice continually." Now once more, even bypassing how it is that these Levite priests come to learn that they are Levite priests, even bypassing that for this moment and moving on to the fact that Aaron, the beginning of the Levite priests, and his sons were anointed. Whom would be anointing these priests today? So once more, these children did a lot of laughing. I expect some very deep breakdowns in response to these very simple questions placed before you. So here we will return to this conversation.
Yo, that's crazy.
You will find no other.
Listen, back chat, we're going to definitely put the lines up, though. We're going to do that.
I'm not very...
Yeah, you said you are the king. You didn't say you're going to be king. That's the difference.
Brother, you brother.
Listen, you will find no other. Indeed, I am the line of David. Thus I am the king.
From David line.
Wait, so who am I supposed to listen to? Because other people claim that they're from the line of David too.
Well, don't worry.
Just like you.
The Most High God will continue to make that clear for you.
And though I will still be expecting a response to the verses and facts I have placed forward already, here is further proof that I am indeed the Mashiach.
Can say about the Mashiach is the Mashiach in a certain way, to use a term from biology, from evolution theory. The Mashiach is definitely in a certain way a new positive mutation of mankind. It is like a quantum leap of humanity to a new place. Almost to say that a new species of mankind is appearing on the scene of reality.
As here we will see how this gift from God is indeed holy, which means to be set apart, special, as again it is the glory of God to entrench or to hide a thing. It is the honor of queens and kings to seek them out. And we are now at a place in time where we see that every bit of our world has been fine-tuned to reveal and to harness this very gift. The alignment of the discovery that in fact our DNA is a fractal antenna able to pick up electromagnetic fields, including the ranges of radio frequency, overlaying with the holding that when Mashiach, which means Messiah or Christ, comes, that the radio channels will be a different scene, a different vibration. And again here, we are now in a time that we know our very DNA channels radio frequency.
Of the world. And the first thing that happens when Mashiach comes is that all of the radio channels, it's all a different scene, a different vibration.
A part of the holistic process of picking up those radio frequencies is the newly discovered the fourth phase of intracellular water structure, which is used for energy and also to store and transmit information. And just as that fourth phase of intracellular water structure is a hexagonal structure, this overlays with the first verse of Genesis being 7 words made up of 28 letters, which is the 7th triangular number and the 4th hexagonal number, overlaying with the 4th stage of intracellular water structure and being a perfect number. That 4th stage of intracellular water structure being a crystalline substance perfectly overlaying with God encoding the entire Torah in a crystalline substance.
New interpretations of the text now suggest the entire Torah was encoded into a crystalline substance, not necessarily a crystal, but a crystalline substance that fit into the palm of a single hand. And when the Ark of the Covenant is revealed and made public, we will see that is the case.
Along with the 4th stage of intracellular water structure and our DNA being a fractal antenna, the physio-electric processes within our body due to the microcrystals within our brain allow for the picking up of radio frequencies, which is showing to be the precursors potentially to telepathy, as you see an example of here.
We do know that Earth's magnetic fields affect everything from our mood to our ability to learn. Even stranger, research has begun to prove links between the electromagnetic field of our planet and psychic abilities. Could these crystals act like tiny antennas, connecting our brains to each other and to the entire planet? This is Dr. Michael Persinger, a neuroscientist who has argued that all phenomena, including consciousness, spiritual experiences, and even paranormal events, can be explained by physical mechanisms, and they can be verified using the scientific method. Since 1971, he has been researching electromagnetic field effects upon biological organisms. And some of his recent studies sound straight out of a sci-fi movie. Dr. Persinger has shown in the laboratory that magnetic brain stimulation can create mental states conducive to human telepathy. A recent experiment placed two people at a distance in different rooms. Each was surrounded by an identical computer-controlled magnetic field. When a light was flashed in one subject's eye, the person in the other room showed responses in their brain as if they saw the flash of light. As Dr. Persinger stated, we think that's tremendous because it may be the first macro demonstration of a quantum connection, or so-called quantum entanglement. If true, then there's another way of potential communication.
Now, being blessed with this gift from God, the agencies that have been looking for this activity are needing a transcranial magnetic stimulation device, and I do not need such thing to pick them up, which of course is due to this God-given gift, which indeed proves to be set apart along with special, the definition of holy. And as we see, when Moses anointed Aaron, it was to consecrate him, which means to make him holy. And now you see with all the more depth the portrait of the Mashiach painted by this prophet, as we'll listen to it one more time.
What we can say about the Mashiach is the Mashiach, in a certain way, to use a term from biology, from evolution theory. The Mashiach is definitely, in a certain way, a new positive mutation of mankind. It is like a quantum leap of humanity to a new place. Almost to say that a new species of mankind is appearing on the scene of reality.
As I said, I have proof on my page.
Are you gonna rule? Can you give us a sign?
Now, as far as show us a sign, not only do I dare any of your camp to oppose what I have shared here now to you, though I owe animals far greater when it comes to these analogies or metaphors. But if there actually are any amongst you, any pretenders trying to hide like sheep amongst the actual wolves who think for 1 second that my line is trash, then after seeing the following, let me know if it is not a sign from God itself that you better quickly correct yourself. The significance of the descendants of David's grandmother being 14 generations from Abraham at the time of David. Now the law of Deuteronomy 23 verse 3, we will see, was clearly being observed in Judah. And living within the laws, Boaz made sure that there were elders, which of course knew the law, which witnessed all. And it is with great reason that the book of Ruth concludes with the genealogy of David, counting from Perez, as David is the 10th generation since Yehuda, Judah, and the congregation of the Lord, the assembly of the Lord, was by tribe. This is why Ruth ends counting the generations, the congregation, the assembly of the Lord, organized by tribe, Here was Judah. David was the 10th generation thereof. We also see a deep reflection in the fact that the women said to Naomi, "Your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons," and David being anointed after 7 sons have already passed. A sweet signature of the divine providence, the hand of God. And now we will go deeper into the significance of David being the 14th generation since Abraham, and also authenticating the sharing of the decree that the Lord has said to my line, "You are my son, today I have begotten thee." We are about to see further proof of God's awesome order and orchestration throughout what we may perceive in the moment as chaotic, as random. Now once more, there are 14 generations from Abraham to David. And not only is this number the gematria, the mathematical equivalent of the name David, further revelation of the absolute supremacy of God itself, composing and conducting order where we may perceive chaos, is the fact that there are 14 generations from Abraham to David, and then 14 generations from David to the exile in Babylon. When we look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest copies of the Bible in the world, with some scholars dating them back to the 5th century BC, we will not only find roots to the answers of some of the questions that we have today, but we will actually see copies of, for example, Noah speaking to his sons in the first person, as of course fragments of the book of Jubilees is a part of the very Dead Sea Scrolls. Here we see the origins of a ceremonial custom that should a woman give birth to a son, after a total of 40 days, 7 and then 33, she will then be purified. And if she has a daughter, it will be twice 7, 14 days, and then also double the 33 days, 66. Twice that for a boy, for a total of 80. And then when we look at the book of Jubilees that was preserved and protected by the Hebrews in Qumran as one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we see further depths as to what it means that Israel is my son, even my firstborn, as these ceremonies, these laws and statutes, this history has been recorded, preserved, and protected since Adam and Eve. And as we see here, this ceremony is in commemoration of the first 2
Adam and Eve, and a reminder that we all come from the first two. Once more, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And as aligns with twice 7, the 14th verse of this chapter states that this is a law for Yisrael to keep for all days, as Moses and the Israelites were preserving what was since Adam and Eve. 7 days plus 33 for a total of 40. And by the grace of God, upon reflection, we see a miraculous alignment that the reign of David was 7 years in Judah and then 33 years all of Israel for a total of 40. And even deeper still, just as a part of the completion of that commemoration when it came to the female was the number 80 altogether when it comes to the commemoration of the beginning of mankind. And by the grace of God, the combined reigns of both David and Solomon are 40 years each for a total of 80. And as we are able to behold that David reigned for 7 years in Judah, directly overlaying with the 7 days for the birth of a male as held in Jubilees and Leviticus. 6 months overlaying, of course, with representing creation done on the 6th day. And also then 33 years ruling all of Israel, directly aligned with the completion of the 40 days outlined in Jubilees and Leviticus. And a part of the completion of that commemoration, the 80 days for the birth of a daughter, we see the combined reigns of both David and Solomon equal 80. This alignment of the reigns of David and Solomon, along with the commemoration of the creation of Adam, completely bringing all the more understanding to Israel is my son, even my firstborn, let alone the sharing of the decree in Psalms. You are my son. Today I have begotten thee. And brings all the more credence to Adam in acronym form, serving as a calendar or a clock, since Adam to David to Mashiach, Messiah, Christ, which by the grace of God is myself. And just as the studying of our chronological history has been the subject of focus of many great angels, those studies have extended to Gematria, the ingenious infusion of letters
and numbers, which, as we are made in the image of God, we have used to reflect the order and orchestration that God itself has conducted throughout the universe. As the famous saying in Psalms 23, "For thou art with me," shows to be a poetically placed sweet symphony, as "For thou art with me" in orchestration is flanked with 26 words on both sides, just as we have seen here through its orchestration of order. "For thou art with me" is revealed all the more.
Okay. Who anointed David?
Ultimately, God. Can I give you a sign? Do I look like the Most High? Listen, if you're a Roman agent at the end of the day, little Torah, and you come here to poke holes at what might be true, I'm talking to you.
I'm asking you to prove your claims.
I told you it's on my page. So if you really took it seriously, you would go through it and see if there's something you could actually dissect.
I'm asking you based off of what you claim. I don't have to go to your page. You're claiming this. You should know it.
What does Jeremiah 33:17 state? Do you want to pull it up?
What's your mission? What's your goal? I want to know that.
Listen, I know that you kids know the messianic prophecies and everything very well. If you want proof, look on my page. I came up here because
calling us kids, bro?
Hold on. Hold on. Well, you grown. You wouldn't do a dang thing. Trust me, in person, you wouldn't do a dang thing, and you wouldn't do anything. Don't talk tough, boy. Don't talk tough. And you kids started to laugh. There you go.
Don't talk tough. Ain't nobody talking tough. I just know you not like that, bro.
Now I know there really isn't much reason to go into detail in regards to how asinine it is to be speaking to somebody for the first time, as you're seeing here, and then stating that you just know this or that about whom you're speaking to for the first time. And though there shouldn't be need to clarify, let alone when you have never met them before. So to make sure that I do not add to any excuse to try to run from this, I will try to preserve that bridge for a response and not go into what messages may have taken place after this, should it not be necessary. However, I will state that though there perhaps may be a chance for you to build off of this, it can make one question the character of someone who immediately gets into "we will do this and that," while they are themselves, of course, the one talking, let alone when they are talking to one person. And once more, as is heard clearly throughout this conversation, you all, as in plural, began with your laughter, so you all, kids, plural, were addressed in that fashion. But should you really want to test what it is that this king, both born and made, truly is about, I saw that there were some amongst you that were, quote, martial artists and the like. If you really would like to line up one by one, we can go to a gym together. Or, of course, if you feel more comfortable, all at the same time. I'm only not going to be able to guarantee your safety in that fashion, but we can go that route as well. And for those amongst your camp who, quite frankly, don't really deserve that energy, obviously, one more time, I will look for a response. with regards to the information that was placed forth in this sharing. And to the one that I was speaking back and forth with there, of course, that includes you when I state I am expecting a response to the information I have placed forth in this sharing.
Boy, it's crazy. Hold on, what am I missing, bro? Hold on. Listen, bro.
Yeah, my dad, this is
Where in Jeremiah does it say? That's crazy. I want to see this line.